This is a Sony TCM5000EV cassette recorder, and in this video I'd like to show you some of the ways I use it as a delay. I'm going to cover a lot of topics, and I think this video might be a bit long, so I'll put an index in the description below so you can skip around and find what you'd like. I'm going to look at how to set up a cassette delay within a DAW or with hardware and modules, as well as looking at how to calculate delay times for a machine with a fixed tape speed. I'll also show you how I modded this particular machine to allow the tape speed to be changed while recording, and show you some ideas using plugins or hardware to get some cool, interesting sounds. One thing I should mention, a cassette recorder can make some pretty great delay sounds, but it's never going to be as versatile or sound as clean as a real dedicated tape delay, pedals, or even plugins. But they are unique sounding little devices and are really fun to play around with. I'm using Studio One for this part of the demonstration, but I'll show you how to do this in other DAWs as well. So I've created two audio tracks. My first track is going to be my instrument or source, and just setting the inputs now. And my second audio track is going to be my tape return. So I'm setting the input here, and I'm going to plug the output of my tape machine into this input. Now I'm going to set up sends on each channel. Both are going to be sent to the input channel of the tape machine. I'm also going to set it on pre-fader level here, so the fader level doesn't affect my send level. Input monitoring on and record enable. Let's turn on the tape machine, and I'll start the sequencer. The send on channel 1 is our delay send, so it's sending our audio signal to the cassette machine, and there's our delay. If we crank the send, we can get a little bit of tape saturation. Nice, sounds good. There's a few things we need to clear up. For a cassette machine to work as a delay, it has to have three heads: a play, record, and erase head, as well as the ability to monitor from tape, not from source. Delay time is determined by tape speed and the distance between the record and play head, so I'm going to show you how to calculate tempo based on delay. There's 60 milliseconds in a second, therefore a quarter note value, or BPM, is 60,000 divided by your delay time in milliseconds. So for example, if your delay time is 1,000 milliseconds, or 1 second, then 60,000 divided by 1,000 equals 60, so 60 would be your quarter note value. If you wanted to have dotted eighths, for instance, you'd multiply 60 by 0.75, and then you'd set your project tempo to 45 BPM. Now, most consumer-grade cassette machines or reel-to-reels are going to have a tape speed of around 3.5 inches per second, or maybe 7 inches per second. So the average delay time, at least from the machines I've tried out, is around 100 milliseconds to maybe up to 300 milliseconds, which is fairly limiting if you're going to try to get quarter note or half note delay times. You're going to have a project tempo at around 300. Same thing if you're going to try to get 16th notes, you're going to end up having a really slow project tempo. So fixed delay times, or using a cassette or tape machine in this way, can be a little bit limiting if you don't have very speed. That being said, it's still a lot of fun playing around with these tape machines, so first thing we got to do is figure out our delay time. Okay, zooming in, going to tab to transient here on the audio track and make a cut, and then going to tab transient on the delay. Okay, now I make a selection. Now I'm going to take note of the cursor positions and subtract that value, and that will give me delay time in milliseconds. So we had 596 minus 285. Our delay time is 311 milliseconds. Great. So if we want quarter note delay, we've got to set our project tempo at 300 and, well, let's just say 10. Bit ridiculously fast, but let's have a listen. Oh, it's not that bad for this sequence. Okay, so the send on the delay track is now our feedback or repeat control. Pretty good sounding delay. Okay, let's try a more reasonable tempo. So let's go See what happens if we get 300 times 0.5 is going to give us eighth notes. So now we set our tempo to 155. And let's give this a go. I'm using the tempo track so we can easily switch back and compare later if we want to. All right, let's turn down the feedback a bit and maybe simplify the sequence a bit so we can hear the repeats a bit better. Add a bit more feedback. Obviously, we can get it to self-oscillate a bit. Let's try that again. Cool. Sounds good. All right, I'll just quickly do the calculations for the other beat divisions, and then I'll set up a tempo track in the DAW and we can compare them. Nice, so that worked out pretty well. We heard the divisions pretty clearly. Let's set up a new sequence and mess around a bit. So as you just saw, this setup can be done in any DAW. It doesn't have to be Studio One. Might be slightly different how you set up the routing, using buses instead of audio tracks, but it's a pretty simple setup. I'll add a link to project template files in the description. There's actually quite a few bonuses to doing this in the DAW instead of using hardware, like using VST instruments, for instance. I love this UVI prepared piano. Another bonus, of course, is being able to automate or record your sends. Or you can use your favorite plugins to process the signal before it gets sent to the cassette. Alright, I'm going to use this Softube plugin and do a little quick live jam to demonstrate. Let's do this. That Console 1 hardware controller really makes working in the DAW a lot more fun. Okay, there is a thing that we got to figure out. See, there's a speed control, but it doesn't do anything. The speed control on a lot of the cassette machines only work during playback. But thanks to the internet, I found the service manual and was able to figure out how to modify it. There's also a lot of other cool mods I might try later. Alright, there's 5 screws you got to take out and take off the battery pack and open her up. This thing is pretty solidly built, but you got to be careful. There's wires everywhere, so be gentle. We're going to look at the top right part of the circuit board. This is a very simple mod. All we have to do is disconnect this wire here. You can cut it or float it if you might want to put it back later. Then we'll solder a jumper from where we just disconnected that cable to this blue one over here. Simple as that. Let's do it. First, I'm just going to make a jumper out of an old wire I've got lying around. Going to strip it and tin the tips. It's important to use good quality solder. I like Kester 245. There's a bunch of wires on the circuit board that are in the way, so it's just tying them back with some tape, and I've disconnected that purple wire. Now I'm connecting my jumper and going to solder it in place. And that's it. We're done. Let's try it out. This cassette deck also has a couple of different recording modes, manual, which we've been using, as well as auto and VOR, voice-operated recording. The idea behind VOR mode is that the tape recorder listens for sound through its internal microphone and starts recording. Well, it's basically triggered by any sound. So in order for that to work, they had to insert a BBD chip into the tape recorder. So that's great for us because it means that we can get different delay times. The BBD chip doesn't slow down the tape, but it delays the signal going to the tape. So we're essentially getting slower delay times. It also, intentionally or not, alters the sound of the recorded material going to tape. So we get different, slightly different timbres at least. Let's have a listen. All right, let's look at hardware setup. It's pretty much the exact same thing we just did in the DAW, except in this case, we're going to use a mixer. I've got my Dope for Performance mixer here. I'm just going to take the instrument out and the VC out of the Roland here, plug it into channel 1, and then I'm going to take the tape input and I'm plugging it into the aux send. And the tape out, I'm going to plug into channel 2, not into the aux return. If we do that, we won't get any repeats. The tape repeats are caused by tape feedback, so we need to be able to send the tape signal back into itself. That's how we get our repeats. So this aux send, that's sending our signal to tape. There's our delay. And aux send on channel 2 is our feedback. Great, easy peasy. Sounds pretty good. There's an even easier way to do this with the aptly named tape interface module, which is basically just a single channel mixer with an aux send. It has instrument input as well as volume control. It's got send and return jacks as well as mix control. It's also got repeat control, of course, output volume, as well as a bypass switch, which turns out to be super useful. By using this module, I've freed up my aux send now so I can use a reverb. This module's got a little op amp in it, so if I crank the input, I can distort it and get the same kind of distortion you'd get from a cheap 4-track or something like that. Let's check out the repeats. If this module is CV controllable, it would be unstoppable. But by patching some VCAs in, you can still get a bunch of extra functionality. Works as advertised. Pretty nice little module. Okay, let's patch in that reverb. Alright, that's about it for this video, so hope you have fun experimenting with some cassette machines. I'm just going to jam out for a bit. Enjoy! So far, I've just been using regular cassettes, but why not make your own endless loop cassette? That way you don't have to keep flipping the sides or rewinding, or you can use it as a looper itself. Put the tape in here, and I'm just going to use the Matriarch for this demonstration. I already packed away the modular. So it's a simple setup. I've just got the filter going into the tape machine and the tape machine returning back into the mixer. So this knob here is going to be my tape send as well as feedback control in one knob. Let's try it out. Now if I play the tape back, we've got a looper. It's obviously not going to be in time anymore, but still can sound cool.